So you play with 6 different teams. So you play with a lot of different quarterbacks, and some of them are lesser known quarterbacks. With Washington, especially that year in that 2007 season, was very impressive, making the playoffs with Todd Collins. I remember that year because I'm a Giants
Coach
fan.
Joe Gibbs too.
Yeah, I'm a Giants fan, so I remember that year well. 3 NFC East teams were in the playoffs, but the Bears, the Broncos, like you were mentioning, the St. Louis Rams. I'll put that out there, and the Patriots, as you mentioned, the 49ers. Is there anything that stands out with any of those quarterbacks that you ever played with, both either on or off the field, that is something unique?
Oh well, the most unique is Tom Brady. He's a incredible friend, and I think that's it was similar to like a high school relationship. You know, the way that Tom builds these relationships with his pass catchers and with his offensive linemen, with the running backs. It's just what he does is remarkable. And during the preseason, before the New York Giants preseason game where we weren't going to be playing, Bill announced that the projected starters weren't going to play. And so Tom says to me, he says, all right, B. Lloyd, he says, we're not playing on Saturday night and the Giants game. So meet me in the hotel lobby after the team meeting, because we're not going to have to go to the meetings because we're not playing. It's like, all right. So we go to the team meeting. I meet him in the hotel lobby. This is when he had the penthouse. Him and Giselle had the penthouse in New York. So, he has a chauffeur pick us up, and, me and him he takes me over to the Tom Ford store, has it completely shut down. Just me, him, one of his Goldman Sachs buddies. And we just spent the morning together. And, it's kind of like, I'm not going to be a chump in here and just get a bottle of cologne. And so it's, let me pick out 3 of these polos, and Tom's like, calls the stylist over. He's like, put the James Bond suit on, B. Lloyd, put the mohair suit on. Put the mohair suit on, the whole all the pieces, right? And as Goldman Sachs buddy says, Tom, he says, is Brandon getting the discount you get when you're here? And he's like, yeah, Brandon, you get the discount. I'm like, well, what's the discount?
Free.
Well,
oh shit.
It's a hefty discount. And so I ended up picking up the suit. I pick up the mohair, the James Bond suit, a couple polos, a few other items. And we get back to New England, and it's all gift wrapped, and it's put in my locker. And Tom says, he says, I got this for you. They didn't charge your card. He says, thank you for coming and playing with me here in New England. So it's just like these incredible gestures, and the way he makes himself available. It's remarkable friend. So I think that's probably the top of the top. But, Mark Brunell was an incredible teammate and friendly man. Kyle Orton also just incredibly friendly and likable. So I think those are components that make a quarterback great, is that being likable and being accessible and friendly to your teammates off the field.
So Tom Brady is also known as one of the greatest trash talkers the quarterback position has. Being that you're a wide receiver and cornerback trash talking, I'd imagine, is probably up there in any type of trash talking for anything, because you guys are both the alphas at your position and you're on an island one-on-one. So in your career, I'm sure you've gone up against some pretty great trash talkers. So give us your best trash talking story for yourself, and also the best trash talker that you had to face.
Well, I didn't talk. I wasn't a trash talker.
You don't look like a trash talker.
No, I think he did the Barry Sanders, here's the ball, ref, and then he went back to the huddle.
I just, like I said, I was just an effort guy. I really put it in, and I just refrained from the trash talk. But the best trash talkers and players that backed it up: Al Harris, Mike McKenzie, Richard Sherman, Cortland Finnegan,
Oh, I hated Cortland Finnegan. Every time I watched him, I hated him. I think it was Tennessee. He played for Tennessee for a little while.
Yeah.
Andre Johnson rearranged his face.
You were saying the same thing last week to me.
Yeah,
Like you hated Cortland Finnegan.
I love Andre Johnson, so when that fight happened, I was like, all right, Team AJ all day.
You could tell Cortland Finnegan, if you want to feel with him, you would want to knock him out by the crazy stuff that he's probably saying to you on the field. I mean, I've heard some stories about him. But
Finnegan followed him to the Rams, too, Jeff Fisher.
And Pac-Man's up there, too. Pac-Man Jones, definitely. So I think I probably rank Pac-Man as, the dirtiest players I played against.
Wow.
I mean, it was like, because playing against them, it's like all sportsmanship and gamesmanship's like out the window. Playing with him, he's gonna hit you in the crotch. He's gonna, grab your jersey, pull, kick my legs, trip me on the ground. I mean, it was just constantly all game. It was just something. And I prided myself on not, complaining to the referees or, throwing my hands up in the air, but I just couldn't help myself when I'm playing against Pac-Man because, it was just his actions and, he wasn't getting penalties for it. So it was well within the game. It was just things that other players chose not to do. He would go there. And so I'm not saying that he's not a good corner. He was a fantastic corner, but he's on the dirty list.
No, he instead Santa Claus has a good list and a bad list. He's on the dirty list. Okay,
yeah, he's on the dirty list. He's getting a lump of coal.
That's right. He probably got a lot of that. But ask the strippers. Ask the strippers how much coal he gave them.
People blame Vontaze Burfict all the time for the reason the Bengals lost that playoff game to the Steelers. Don't forget, Pac-Man Jones also shoved the referee and gave them another 15 yards.
Jeez.
Him and Vince Young. Oh, my God. Oh, I'm going to fall over. As you guys know, we are talking to 11-year vet NFL wide receiver Brandon Lloyd. So, Brandon, let's get into the divisional games, which a lot of people said probably was one of the best weekends in football history with the games that were played, how close they were, how competitive they were. You were talking about Tom Brady. Were you surprised with so many crazy things that happened in the fourth quarter against the LA Rams? Were you surprised that the game happened the way it did and how close it was at the end of the game?
Very much so. Yeah, I was surprised that they were down by 21 points. I was surprised that they even could come back from that. So, yeah, it was all surprise, but at the same time, it's one of those things where even last year in the playoffs against the Green Bay Packers, where you're saying, all right, there's no reason Tampa Bay should be able to march into Green Bay and win a game. And it's like, you shouldn't bet against Tom Brady. And then, it comes this year against, Matthew Stafford. And it's like, come on, we're not betting against Tom Brady in this matchup. And turns out, LA was able to pull it off.
So actually, I want to ask one of the questions from one of our fans, Carl, who's he's a Big Ten football guy. You're a Big Ten football guy. You played for Illinois. He's a Michigan fan. He wants to know, what was the toughest college opponent environment to play in?
I'll pick three of them. The Penn State was incredibly intimidating in the late 90s. LeVar Arrington and just the sheer size of the players. I mean, they're like professional athletes, especially my freshman year when I was probably all 170 pounds playing Division I wide receiver. Just, incredibly intimidating. The size of the stadium, playing, going from high school where maximum our games were, 10,000 fans. And that was just for the crosstown rival. That wasn't every week. So we'd have 2 games out of the year with 10,000, and the rest of them probably 3. But to go from that environment to 100,000 that's intimidating. So I picked Penn State, Michigan, and O State. By far were the three most intimidating environments to play in because of the talent, the skills that those players had, and then also because of the crowds that they were able to amass.
So back to kind of the divisional game for a second. Obviously, the Rams had a couple of guys that they had brought in this season to kind of make it a win now mode. Obviously, they moved on to Matt Stafford this offseason. They brought in Von Miller. But being that you have a lot of expertise and knowledge at the wide receiver, are you surprised? I said Odell Beckham Jr. when he got traded to Cleveland, he was going to be fine. He's going to be the all-pro receiver that he has been. And then obviously him and Baker didn't click. Something didn't happen. Whatever happened in Cleveland didn't work. Now in L.A., he looks rejuvenated. He's playing team ball, and he's having great numbers in L.A. Do you see anything special about what Odell's doing, or is it just finally that he's in a winning system?
Well, I think he's in a winning system, and that's the key. When he went to Cleveland, what I said from personal experience, he's just taking the money. There comes a point in a player's career where you have to take the money. I had that experience with the Washington football team, where you get an opportunity for a blockbuster deal. They're trading 2 picks for me. They're giving, my sports agent was saying, you are not going to get along with Joe Gibbs. Mm-hmm. He was calling it. He's like, it's not going to work. And so I'm on the phone with him like, well, then what do I do? He says, you take the money. You have to go. You don't know when this is going to happen again. So Cleveland, I didn't see that panning out. Now, the exit from Cleveland was remarkable. That was more of the remarkable story of him getting out of that situation to be a clean and clear free agent, and then to be able to have his pick and then select LA. The thing that I was worried about was, is there enough balls to go around? Is he going to keep it together, or is he going to implode? When he went to LA, I was envisioning him having an Antonio Brown kind of situation. But being on a winning team, on a playoff-bound team, winning alleviates all the head cases. All the head cases can keep it together when the team's like on a clear path to the playoffs. And then not only to the playoffs, but on a clear, visible path to the Super Bowl. So, am I surprised on, that he's keeping it together? Yes. But am I surprised that he's able to score, 7 touchdowns and, however many games he's been there? I think I'm not surprised about that, because I know he has talent and he has someone to take away the attention. So he should have enough one-on-one matchups to where it should showcase his talent.
As you guys know, we are talking to 11-year NFL wide receiving vet, Brandon Lloyd, who has had a sensational career, now enjoying his life after football. Went to college, got his MBA. I mean, this guy's had a sensational career, and he has a sensational life, and football really got him where he is today. Last question for me, man, and I really appreciate
I have a question for you before you get there.
Hit me.
So does this make Matt Stafford elite? He's thrown two record wide receivers, Megatron and Cooper Kupp. Does this make him elite quarterback?
I think Matthew Stafford was always elite. I think everywhere he was, even with the Lions, he was an elite quarterback. He was in a bad situation. Calvin Johnson really hid the deficiencies of the Lions, as everybody knows. The Lions never had a running game. They really never had a running game when he was there, and that really affected his ability to play the quarterback position. But when Matthew Stafford was the number 1 pick and he grew into the quarterback position, every single year you would look at this team. He had deficiencies on his offensive line. He had deficiencies with the defensive players staying healthy. And then all of a sudden, Calvin Johnson, he had a 9-10-year career. He was Megatron. He was one of the greatest wide receivers we have ever seen, but didn't really play out his career. He wanted to retire. I think that affected Matthew Stafford. I think Matthew Stafford never wanted to be there. The only reason why Matthew Stafford was there was the fact that Calvin Johnson was there. And then after that, we all heard that he wanted out, and he wanted to go home.